On today's show, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman, or is it Clark Kent? Richard Rieman from Imagination Storybooks joins us on the program with the origin story of his wonderful service. Plus, Ryan Straschnitzki from We Were Broncos, the documentary on AMI, joins the boys on Parasport Nation a little later in the hour. Alex Smyth will join us to tell us what's on tap for this week. Now, up, and away!
This is Kelly and Company.
Visiting with me on the program on a Tuesday, once a month, stopping in to talk a little bit, Alicia Grace Chenier joins me. How are you today, Alicia Grace?
Hi, Kelly. I am doing so great. How are you?
All right. Now, you're in Northern Ontario, and you're experiencing the snow. Sorry. Should I say freezing rain, the even more unpleasant than snow?
Yeah, so I think it started snowing sometime last week. I don't know. The days turn into months at this point. And they're like, okay, 15 centimeters and then another 10 centimeters. And at this point, you know, we're just buried alive.
Get you ready for Christmas, though. I mean, we were
Oh,
talking
yes,
last week about how many people love the snow at Christmas time and then would like it to go away on Boxing Day.
absolutely. I think for me, like, I like it on Christmas, but I don't like it vision wise.
Yeah, no, it's a bit hard for getting around, and whether you use the sidewalks, whether you have a guide dog, whether you're caning, it's a tough thing. I can't even imagine how folks in the wheelchairs have to manage, but let's give them a reason to kinda stay inside and enjoy themselves a bit. When we bring you on the program once a month, we love to get into any reviews or anything as we talk a little media and entertainment out there. Um, Alicia Grace is here to talk to us, with her thoughts on something really kind of cool. This is a review of Out of My Mind, a film that just came out on Disney. It's an adaptation of Sharon M. Draper's best-selling novel. The story follows Melanie Brooks, an 11-year-old girl with cerebral palsy who cannot speak or walk, but possesses a photographic memory and a sharp intellect. Despite being underestimated by those around her, Melody finds a teacher who recognizes her potential and introduces her to new opportunities, including a speech device that allows her to express herself for the first time. Alicia Grace, first of all, let's start with what did you think of the movie overall and the overarching storyline that I just kind of surmised for us?
Yeah. So I think for me, when I seen this movie, I really took caution because, you never know with disability representation. And so I looked into it a little bit. And when I went to, like, when I seen it, watched it on Disney Plus, it hit really close to home. And I think for many people who watch that, who, grew up with a disability in the school system too, it touches on a lot of topics that aren't naturally talked about, which I think is like overarch like great.
We when we see a description in this summary that I just went through of the movie, of course you think of the miracle worker. You think of so many different situations out there that we might be able to say, "Oh, this is a parallel. Have I heard this story before?" Um, I think some of the interesting things are when you look at stuff way back when, we kinda at least get a grasp of how come some of the things, the ignorance that was there then that people may not have kind of understood. Certainly didn't treat lots of people correctly, whether you were minorities, whether you were, children, women. There was so many wrong things done as we look at things today. And again, in 50 years, people will be saying that about things we do. I'm kind of curious how the movie shows the day to day as our disabled character makes it through her day, about things that were put in place for her. What kinds of things did you notice there in taking in this film?
Yeah, so at the beginning, what something that I immediately noticed is that, the movie is based on the early 2000s, and growing up for me, I had similar experiences. So for Melody, she has a physical disability, and her mind is so sharp and just so wise for her age, given everything. but yet she is placed in a special needs class and segregated from all the other students. And all she wants to do is learn. And it took for that one teacher to really notice her and to see her potential that she is very capable of. And I can really resonate with this because they tried to put me in a special needs class as a child, but my mom, fought the system because my eyes don't work, but that doesn't mean my brain doesn't, right? So, and then we go out through the movie with her having like her parents slowly then becoming more of an advocates for her, and like she just like she shows everyone that her mind is so wiser beyond her years despite her disability.
And I think from our viewpoint, many of us will stop and think about those things as you just pointed. And I think as you're talking about all the things my parents had to advocate for me as a blind child, and as I got older, the things they hoped and wished they could help take care of, kind of level the playing field, if you want to say. But just watching your child go through those things makes that parent fight like a mother bear, right? It's that protectiveness, but also understanding and being told they have to be able to fend for themselves. And it sounds like we understand that Melody is so smart. We get that opportunity to understand the photographic memory, the tools that she has in her toolkit, and how that stuff plays into her life and what's going to go forward. Let's talk about the communication device. What did you feel about this? And I know there's lots out there. Is this one something that's on the market out there currently? Do we know anything like that? Because I know you said we're talking 15, 20 years ago versus some of the stuff that's available now.
Yeah, so I am not familiar. I forget the name of the device, but it's basically like at the beginning of the movie, Melody had photos that she could point to
Hmm.
like
Yep.
basically say like the stuff that she wanted or how she was feeling. And then there was a device kind of like that where she was basically like given her own voice in a way, and she could form sentences and talk, which she had never done before the age of 9, I would say. And I what I really liked about this movie, because there might have been movies with like communicative devices like this in the past, but when Melody was going through her emotions, they would flash back to those different symbols and really show that like she wasn't expressing her emotions by voice, but she was like remembering the different symbols that she could use from that device, which was very impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes so much to how sharp she was, in her
Yeah.
learning, in her taking things in and being able to execute. And unfortunately, a lot of time, as you say, you put somebody in a special class because, well, what else do we do with them? Well, maybe you continue to watch them grow and let them show you what they can do, and that should tell you where they need to go, just like anyone else. What about Phoebe Ray Taylor, the actress who plays her? We're seeing somebody for proper representation. She has cerebral palsy.
Yes, which is great. I think this could be one of her first bigger roles, but she is a character or like an actor who has a CP, cerebral palsy. I think she does speak, but to like that just shows like a range of people with cerebral palsy and disabilities. It's not all one size fits all, right?
No.
But she did an incredible job with this film and bringing in that authentic representation that I think children, especially with cerebral palsy, will get to connect with her and really experience like seeing themselves on film.
I'm loving this. We have had such a pattern lately of trying to express that one solution doesn't fit all, no matter how alike people are in their situation. And I love when we get to be able to showcase that and note it, because it's such an important point. And people think, well, I know one blind person, so I have, really a good idea of what they need and everything they're about and what a blind person or the blind community is about. And no, because we're also individual. And I think it's so great now that we are speaking up, because it's the only way people are to know. They're not going to know other things that way. Alicia Grace, that's wonderful. We can find Out of My Mind, and you can find it on Disney Plus. So just go looking for it there. Alicia Grace is going to stick around with us for the remainder of the show as we visit with our different guests here ahead. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Always want to hear from you. Appreciate you taking part when we run a poll out there or some of the content that we share on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Well, now it's time to move on to a conversation that Alicia Grace and I have been looking forward to having here today. I think you'll all be excited. We even have some stuff to share during this conversation. Richard Riemann wanted to be Superman, but he couldn't fly. Son of a gun. So he decided the best thing to do is be Clark Kent. Yeah, might even save on those phone booth changes. If your bio starts like that, you must have an imagination. Richard, welcome to Kelly and Company. Appreciate you joining Alicia Grace and I. How are you today?
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, we're going to have some fun. We're all going to slip into different voices too as we're talking, folks. So the three of us will become six or seven shortly. After a long career as a radio news reporter, anchor, and Washington bureau chief, Richard, we're going to have you back just to get into some of that stuff. Richard turned his storytelling skills into audiobooks. So many of us benefit from this and are so much richer. Richard, tell us what is Imagination Stories and how did storybooks, excuse me, and how did it start?
Well, Imagination Storybooks, especially now that we're part of the Described and Captioned Media program, funded by the Department of Education, um, we decided, well, I was a guide for blind skiers and also a Learning Ally volunteer reading books of the blind. And my blind friends pointed out that children's illustrated books are an area that really needs more attention to make it accessible to everyone. So we said, let's add audio description of all the pictures and, with co-narration. And so this way, illustrated books become a different experience, not just for blind children, but for all children.
We used to say this that so much of the visual, and we're getting so many apps now that we can take a picture or ask it to describe a picture, tells us all about it. But so much of that was forbidden fruit when it comes to magazine, memes online, so many different things that, Richard, a lot of us just feel 100% left out.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process? Where do you get the books? All the little details, the minutia of the whole thing.
Yes, we seek out authors, especially of books that feature characters with differences and challenges and disabilities, and making sure that we can bring those books to life. We also have done a couple of Kickstarter crowdfunders to do books like the original Winnie the Pooh,
Yeah.
and I, was the narrator for that one. I love narrating books. Once upon a time, a long time ago, Winnie the Pooh was walking through the 100-acre wood.
Wow.
And so bottom line is we have a lot of fun doing it. And then in addition to audiobooks, the deaf community approached us and said, there are so few children's books that have sign language. Would you add sign language to your books? And so we have done that also.
Wow. Well, first of all, Richard, fedora's off on that, reading voice. Like, what a voice to listen to the settle in to have, telling me a story. That is wonderful, but also tremendous, first of all, the approach from the deaf community saying, "What can you do for us?" But access. I mean, we always talk about how do you get stuff going like this? Crowdfunding, absolutely tremendous when you kinda have that plan, can explain it to people enough where they see the value of it. But even just to get
Mhm.
buy-in, was it tough to get the buy-in to be able to produce these books to get people interested? I mean, a lot of us in the community, if I'm writing something and would love somebody to do my illustrations and to get my book out there and make it accessible to all.
Yeah, Kelly, the truth is the publishing community at large has been resistant to making all of their illustrated books
Mm, yep,
accessible this way
yep.
because they feel that they won't make enough money doing it. They're very happy that we're doing it and Imagination Storybooks is doing it, but we have to keep pushing the fact that Scholastic and all the major publishers out there of children's books should be adding audio description of the pictures to every audiobook version of an illustrated book.
100%. Alicia Grace and I totally hear this, and I come from an era, Richard, where this stuff didn't exist. Audio description movies didn't exist. So there's tons of stuff I've watched now with it, including older stuff that people have put audio description on. And I'm like, oh, that's what really happened in that episode of the Rockford Files from years ago that I watched as a kid and thought the ending happened this way. And no, I learned different. We have an audio sample I want to jump in here to. Ricky the Rock. Let's take a listen to Ricky the Rock, your audio sample.
Over the lake and out past the bay was a green grassy hill where the rocks came to play.
On the hilltop, rocks of all sizes laugh as they roll and bounce down toward a lake. A couple of big boulders wait while little pebbles follow each other down in a zigzag line. One of the stones wears eyeglasses. A smaller one wears a headband. At the bottom of the hill, Ricky, the gray rock, peeks out from behind some ferns and grass. The ladybug, Bria, sits by him.
With ASL interpretation as well on screen, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely fantastic, Richard. Now, Alicia Grace, for you, you're in a different era, as I like to say, and that's why it's wonderful to have you on the show. What does this does for you when you hear about this?
Yeah, I think so for me, because I have a background in early childhood education as well, working with children with vision loss, and the amount of times that they would come to me and they would say, there's like I can't read this new book that's out because it's not accessible. And so it really encourages us to like look for these different opportunities. And I think this is just bringing so much more um like accessibility to children's books as well. For me, growing up, Kelly had mentioned like this wasn't available. For me, like I had the big large print textbook, like big large print books, but it was really hard to get, especially children's like illustration not and like photo books, because they were like, well, if she's low vision, why would we give her photos? And all of that. So I commemorate you for doing this, and Alicia, younger Alicia is smiling right now.
Yeah. Wow. And envious.
And
Wow.
we also add downloadable BRF Braille files of
Nice.
our books with audio description too, so that children and their parents can print them out at home.
What are the users saying, Richard? People who are just and the families, particularly moms and dads.
Oh, they love it. It's something that they can't believe that no one else has done. It just makes so much sense. And, they're finding the experience of having all the pictures described, even the authors, when we describe the pictures, hear things and see things now in their illustrations that they didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is a different experience. And the other clip we have is basically shows you, you don't need to see the pictures. It's the descriptions are very, very vivid.
Okay, should we run that? Alexander Avoider, let's give it a shot here.
Alexander was a little boy with a big spirit and an even bigger heart. He loved his mommy, daddy, and sisters very much, and he made sure to tell them all the time.
Alexander lays on his daddy's back on a couch and hugs him around the neck.
Alexander especially loved giving hugs and kisses, but not always receiving them. Sometimes he would get really anxious and push people away, even his mommy and daddy.
On the floor, on his knees, his daddy reaches out to Alexander, who motions him away.
The cover art, of course, on the screen there, Richard. Absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
And what a way to do things full scale for everyone and so inclusive. Richard, is there anything comes to mind in your discussions, as we said, the resistance of other other creators in one
Mhm.
form or another to jump on board with something like this because there's not enough dough. No, sorry. What have those been like? I mean, for someone in your position, passionate about this, you talk about frustration because there's so much more that could be done.
Well, we're showing by example. The accessible Winnie the Pooh is the number one selling version of the original book in audio on Audible. We've made thousands of dollars in royalties from sales of that one. We are showing the publishers that this is a new way for them to make money. Because, as I said, it's not just for children with low vision.
Mm-mm.
Now all children can hear illustrated books in the car or on their phones or wherever they are. So it becomes a different experience and another way to sell the books themselves. So I'm hoping that will take off.
It's got to. I mean, our world is more accepting because people listen to podcasts. People listen to now sound effects that help tell the stories, whether it's with description, whether if it's an audio drama. There is so much more. Oh, wow. And we know in the disability community, just ask anyone who uses an automatic door
Mhm.
that was originally designed to help people in wheelchairs get in and out of a mall. And now everybody uses it. Most of us just because we're lazy. And it's just the thing to do. You wouldn't think otherwise. Or there's sliding doors with the beam as soon as you walk up to it. So I think, Richard, the best way is to show. And number one, sales and everyone grabbing it and liking it and telling, hey, go get this one. Or, hey, this is what we got for Christmas for you because it's this version, the best one out there. And guess what else it has? And it just
Mhm.
becomes, instead of something, a tool for a blind child, it becomes, well, doesn't everything have this? No, everything
Yeah.
should. And that's what we want to see down the road, Richard. You're a writer as well, Richard. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, after we've done over 200 of these books and made them into accessible audio and video books. And I decided, okay, I was a writer early on in second grade. I wrote my first books, put my classmates' names in them and charged them a nickel to read it. So I was a professional writer in
Yes.
second grade. And so I decided I decided to write my own children's book, and it features a nearly blind princess. The day the clouds went away, and her wizard, Fumbledore, the wizard, and she orders Fumbledore to make all the clouds go away so it won't rain on her birthday party. Well, there are circumstances if you don't have clouds. It gets hot, it
Yes.
gets dry, so basically it's all about clouds. And then the sequel I'm working on is The Day the Bees Went Away, how
Oh,
important bees are.
yes.
But the fact that the princess is nearly blind is not the main part of the story. She just happens to be that way, and that's what I like is writing stories that feature characters with challenges, where we don't focus on the challenges. They're off on the adventures that everybody else is off on.
Alicia Grace, we say every day how many challenges everyone has one way or another, or is going to have. We're not all great at everything. And whether you consider it a disability or not, we all have those challenges. Maybe you don't tolerate the sun at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think bringing, eliminating those challenges is the way forward to the future, as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, I'm excited to hear those other books. So very
Yeah, I
excited.
mean, that's great. I mean, and to make characters, Richard, that, like you say, are just there. We're all saying that about every TV show, every series. Why don't they have the neighbor who, happens to be blind or whatever? And it means nothing to the storyline except I'm a person in this show. I'm a character. I'm part of the story because I'm here, and all of us just love that. And the representation thing. Richard, if people want to get involved, I mentioned to you before we went on the air that I saw a notice looking for people and things like that for upcoming projects, and I'm sure you reach out, but and I don't know how much you feel comfortable to share Wizard of Oz. Anything like that you might wanna talk about? Anything like that going on?
Yeah, we are producing right now. We got the crowdfunding for it. The accessible version of the original Wizard of Oz. And Aria Mia Liberti, who played in All the Light We Cannot See, who starred in that. She's our Dorothy. Bruce Horak from the Star Trek series is our Scarecrow. We have an all blind and low vision cast that we're working on. And that's something that I want to do moving forward is to make sure that the blind and low vision voice actors all have opportunities to take part in this.
Absolutely fantastic. I got to give a shout out, Molly Burke in it as well. AMI
Yes.
people who follow the programming here know Molly from AMI This Week. And really, I've worked with Bruce and had a great time doing that. So I know the skill you're talking about that these folks have. And when that gets done, Richard, people will grab it up. And I think you'll have another one of those top sellers like, Oh, Bother, Pooh Bear. Thanks, Richard.
Yes. Thanks very much for having me on, Kelly. You take
Well,
care
you know where
now.
we are. Come on anytime. We got to talk more media. Just realized too that Richard, Clark Kent and I have in common. I mean, we all have had successful careers in journalism, but I know who Clark Kent really is now, right? Alicia Grace and I have that idea. Richard, thanks for everything you guys are doing, and good luck. It's absolutely tremendous and really appreciated. And there he goes, off in a single bound. Richard Rieman joining us on the program. We've got to skip over Alicia Grace and talk a little sports here, but before that, email folks at kellyco at ami.ca, please. Kellyco at ami.ca, and give us a call, 1-866-509-4545, 1-866-509-4545. Leave us a message. Maybe we can play it on the air. We'll always love to hear from you. On Parasport Nation, Alex Smyth spotlights upcoming parasport events in Canada and abroad, pulls back the curtain on how parasports are played, and interviews parasport athletes, coaches, and trainers out there. Parasport Nation is part of Kelly and Company, coming up Tuesdays and Fridays on AMI Audio, and is available as a standalone podcast and video podcast on YouTube like our program. Alex, what's going on, buddy? And boy, I guess you got the celebrities in the house today.
Yeah, it's another jam-packed week of great content, great shows coming up for audiences to enjoy. Today, we have former Humboldt Bronco player and kind of subject of an upcoming AMI documentary series, We Were Broncos, Ryan Straschnitzki. He comes on the show. He talks about his journey through the parasport world, trying to find a sport that works for him. We talk a bit about his initial attempt to try to make the national team with the para ice hockey team, but then realizing due to the nature of his disability, it's not necessarily the most compatible sport and one that's going to be something that he can pursue in a high performance sense, which is what he's really eager in. And so we talk about transitioning to wheelchair basketball, exploring other opportunities in sports. His charitable work in trying to raise awareness around parasports, trying to get funding, trying to get equipment for folks to get out there and get involved. So that is a great conversation that we have for today's show. And then Kelly, on Friday's show, I'm really excited about this because I always love to profile and raise awareness around sports that I feel not a lot of people know about. And
Yes,
this one caught
yes.
my attention recently. Wheelchair motocross, WCMX. You've heard of BMX. Now do it with a wheelchair. So they just had their world championships last weekend. We have a member from the World WCMX Federation coming on the show. Going to explain all about it. Victor Nelson is his name. So I'm excited to kind of explore that world a little
Oh,
bit because I really didn't know much about it until about a week and a half ago. I still don't know a lot about it. So that is going to be a really fun show.
well, you guys are always asking the great questions for those who may not necessarily be too heavily into sports. Alicia Grace, did I call you out on the show? My good heavens. But it's the matter of, I'll be honest, I don't know much about it. I don't probably know anything about it. So when you guys sit down, talk, and ask those questions that I'm sitting here thinking, I want to know. Boy, it's so wonderful that you guys are there to do it. Alex, good luck with the shows this week. Thanks a lot, pal. Appreciate you being with us. Parasport Nation coming up shortly on the Pro. Remember, it's Tuesdays and Fridays right here after us on Kelly and Company. It's available as a standalone podcast and video podcast on YouTube. On my co-host today on the program, Alicia Grace Chenier. Thanks, Alicia. We'll talk to you next month.
Nice seeing you, Kelly.
Remember, folks, check out the show from your podcast platform of choice and give us a rating and review while you're in there, and check out the audio vanity card that is sometimes there. Up on the program next. The gym can be an intimidating environment, but it can also be a great place to reach your goals and find community. Let's chat about it with Jenny Bovart. Francis Wong brings us tips for keeping your hands and feet warm during the cold winter months. And Kevin Shaw reminds us the continued importance of online privacy and security. Fedora's off to you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.